Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our Austin Crime Report. The theme of today's episode is proactive policing. Some not great incidents that are going on in the city, but a lot of great police work that is happening. As we talk about these, I want to talk about a little bit on the importance of proactive policing, which plays into the importance of staffing, of morale, and of all the resources that the department has. Because if those things aren't there, then it makes officers' jobs incredibly difficult. And the first incident we want to talk about is one that happened just the other day. That was our 13th homicide of the year. But after this shooting happened, so it was a shooting that happened downtown over around the 300 block of Nueces in the downtown area. And after that happened, the suspected shooter, the suspect, wound up fleeing on foot. And as he was fleeing, officers began chasing. They kind of pick up where he was headed. And ultimately, what happens at the end, because it's this huge collaboration that happens between our downtown officers, then a reassigned unit now that's called the Downtown Area Rapid Response Team, DART. They were down there, and then just our regular downtown officers. And then we had a corporal. A canine corporal that was out and about wandering around and heard what was going on. He actually was taking care of something else completely unrelated. Here's kind of what's going on, puts himself, in the area, and ultimately is able to put himself in a spot where he cuts off the escape route and ultimately detains the suspected shooter from a homicide. And if you don't have officers that are motivated, that want to go work, that want to go catch bad guys, that want to go make sure that people don't get away with heinous crimes, you have to incentivize proactive policing. And for years now, the overall mantra has been quashing that, about not having officers that want to be proactive.
And I think this is the argument the defunders or quote unquote reimaginers have, is that the police don't prevent crime. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, it really couldn't. As well as if you want crime to be solved, even when crime does happen, right? Because obviously a crime had occurred in this specific incident, but you have a potential violent felon fleeing a scene. And if you don't have officers that are willing to be proactive, to try to problem solve things, to try to get ahead of people, all that other kind of stuff, it's going to be very difficult to bring this person to court, to identify them, to hold them accountable, for investigators to do their job, all that kind of stuff.
And he was unstable. From the news reports I read, it was, a suspected 16-year-old that was the suspect in this case. And this whole thing started because the victim said something to him. So if he's that unstable to just shoot somebody, exchanging some words, if he wasn't caught, what else was he capable of?
Yeah. So it's pretty wild when you see what can lead to these shootings. But to me, it really highlights the work that officers do all the time, because they do this. It happens all the time. Because of staffing, it kind of backed off a little bit from some of the proactive stuff that has happened. But when you see officers, because there were officers all over the place swarming it, trying to make sure that this shooter does not get away. Because if they do, like you said, if something that minor triggered a shooting and a homicide, then what else are they capable of? What happens if we don't actually detain them? So,
and catching them covers the hardest part of an investigation, which is identifying the suspect. If they didn't know each other, if this was just kind of a random bump into each other, and it wasn't like, oh yeah, that's a dude I know from high school, and they can identify him, then it's the detective's job to try to figure out who this person is. So when we're able to be proactive and apprehend that person on scene shortly after by getting into that chase, doing that hard work to do there, putting those officers in those dangerous situations, and they're willing to do it, it makes the case so much easier for the detectives, because now we know who that is. Now it's building all the other part that you got to do to make the case. Yeah.
And again, I keep going back to, and I keep thinking a lot about the morale issue, because we have a morale crisis here with the department, and we have for a while. And when officers don't feel like their work is valued, when a DA undermines the work of officers and arrests, and officers wind up getting targeted and they're worried about being punished for doing their job, right? Because technically, catching bad guys, people that are shooting other people, that's our job. But when you feel like that work is for naught, then it's extremely demoralizing and nobody wants to do it, right? They're not going to want to be engaged. They're not going to want to put themselves in these high-risk situations as much. And that's why it is so important to try to get, one, out of a staffing crisis, to make sure that we have the resources and more people that are capable of going out there and doing the job. But two, of making sure that the officers that are out there doing the job day in, day out know that that work is appreciated, it is valued, not just by the public, but also by prosecutors, by making sure those cases do get prosecuted. There is follow through, that we don't constantly release criminals back out into the street so that we were dealing with the same person yet again. So it's incredibly important from a morale aspect to make sure that officers know that this work does not go unnoticed, and that there is a lot of work that goes into just coordinating this many officers in one particular area, trying to catch someone, and then a phenomenal corporal stepping up and being very aware of where they are and putting themselves in a path to make sure that a suspect can't escape that's potentially involved in a homicide. So props to everyone that was involved. It's just phenomenal work. I love it. Super proud of everybody. And it's always awesome to see when that stuff happens. Along that same line, though, and still talking about proactive stuff, there's another shift that gets a shout out, and they were the Employees of the Week from the chief, but that's the IDA 800s, which is North Central Austin, a night shift. And they were dealing with another situation, violent people, armed robberies, people involved in multiple armed robberies, and they were looking for one particular car. And so they proactively were looking for this vehicle, found it, set up in a particular area where they saw the vehicle. They were able to observe kind of what was going on and come up with a plan, because there were multiple suspects involved in all of it. But they come up with a plan. They get as many people there as they can, as many officers there as they can, and they set up on an area. And ultimately, once they get their plan formulated, they go out on everybody, and they get everybody detained. Everybody that was involved in these potentially armed robberies, they were able to detain everybody. And then come to find out, because the initial thing that got them tipped off was armed robberies at a game room. But then once they detain everybody, investigation continues. Then they find out, hey, these guys are actually involved in multiple armed robberies. And yet again, it's one of those things where it's a shift that's motivated, that wants to prevent crime, that wants to intervene, that wants to protect the city, that sees an opportunity, goes out there, puts in the work, comes up with solid tactics, and is able to detain multiple people that are involved in serious crime, armed robberies. It's kind of a big deal. So incredible work by them and all the work that they did. And I love seeing motivated night shift. My night shifters are still out there getting it, and I love it.
Those are the young officers trying to get things done,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing good work. Just going back real quick, talking about game rooms. Can we talk about what game rooms are for those that don't know in the community and why that's important here?
Yeah, for sure. Would you like to enlighten people?
Yeah, so the game rooms, again, we've talked about illicit businesses in the past on this podcast. And, we've talked about after-hour bars. I think it's important to talk about game rooms because these are illegal gambling operations. And typically what we find out, why they're targeted is because since they're illegal, if an illegal act happens there, the armed robbery per se, they're not going to want to report it because they're doing an illegal act. So a lot of times these go unreported, and that's why they're a good target. So in addition to that, the people that frequent these are often people addicted to narcotics. They're trying to win money so they can buy more narcotics. And what we find is that the people that frequent these businesses actually do a lot of property crime. And so, burglars of residences, vehicles, they'll bring their stolen property there to fence it off in exchange for some gaming credits in the hope to win some money to get some more drugs. And so, we're talking about robberies, but this is connected to much more crime than just the robberies.
And it also highlights why a lot of times you need to focus on the lower level crime. And there's flaws in the system overall because, like you mentioned, drug activity is huge. Yet in Travis County,
We have a policy
Yeah.
that says we won't prosecute
yeah,
that.
we have a policy that if someone has under an ounce or whatever of certain things or a gram, they don't do anything with it. It's a felony still, but the county won't do anything with it. Now, that's a long-standing policy. That's not anything that's new, but it's a major issue because, like you said, there may be so much other activity going on, but because people don't want to report, they don't do other things. Then, if low-level drug activity doesn't get addressed as well, then we're just promoting the same cesspool of criminal activity in these hotspot areas. And there were several in the sector that I worked, and all the time there would be shootings that would happen inside game rooms. There would be assaults. There would be drug activity. There'd be stolen cars, stolen property. People would flee over there. People would run over there instantly and then try to run into the game room so that way their friends inside could hide them or whatever the case may be. So a lot of these game rooms are hotspots for activity because of everything else that's going on. And a big part of that problem is what you said, where people just don't report it because there's so much other criminal activity going on, and that makes it really hard for investigators too. And they don't, depending on where you go, but a lot of times if you're operating these less than above board businesses, they're not very inclined to cooperate with law enforcement. They tend to be a lot more hesitant than actually wanting to help. So it is a major issue, and they're all over the city. So the other one of the other major incidents that happened was another shooting and homicide that we've got some of the video from, where our homicide unit is trying to identify people that were potentially involved, the involved suspects, where there's video of the two male suspects walking up. They walk up to the gentleman who ultimately was killed, and then another male wind up assaulting him, and then the second individual shoots and winds up killing the other guy. Not sure what led up to it. Unfortunately, incidents like this, not hyper uncommon in the world of homicides that we see. There can be a variety of different things going on, but it's just wild to see when this kind of stuff happens, where it's just people that walk up, another guy, two people standing over here, and then all of a sudden an argument, and then a gun comes out and we wind up killing somebody. Right? Like, it's just senseless crime that's happening, and then they're running away from the scene. So this happened in the 400 block of North IH-35, which is around the Metro Rail, Cap Metro Rail Station over there at 35, just north of the river. And so if you have any information, if you saw anything, heard anything, any information, please contact APD. And you can do it through Crime Stoppers, because you can also do it anonymously through them. And we keep giving the number out, but 512-472-TIPS, 512-472-8477 is Austin Crime Stoppers number. And as always, we'd like to give the reminder that if you have information that can lead to an arrest, identification and arrest, there's up to $1,000 reward that they'll give you. But the two people that they're looking for, the first suspect is a black male, slim build. He's got long black hair and was last seen wearing a white shirt, dark shorts, and dark shoes. You can see him there on the video. And then suspect number 2 is another black male with a medium build, and he was last seen wearing a cap with long black sleeve shirt, gray shorts, and white and black shoes. Again, if you have any information, this happened back on March 31st at about just before 2 a.m. in the morning, over around the 400 block of North IH-35.
We turn to the community a lot because, we're a force of 1,400-ish officers, but in a city of over 700,000 people, the odds are somebody out there knows something. So again, if you have these, your tips do make a difference. This is what we're showing on the screen right now is Servadno Cruz. We talked about him last week, and he was wanted for a robbery warrant, aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, where he stole the French Bulldog. And so that was in the news about a month or so ago. They got the warrant issued for him, and he's the one that was actually apprehended in that SWAT standoff at the Embassy Suites on South Congress this Thursday. And so again, without tips coming in, information coming in, the police couldn't do what we do. And so we took another violent person off the street because of the community's help.
Yeah. And worth pointing out that thanks to our specialized units as well that exist is part of the reason why Servadno was caught and the warrant service was able to be done. We have several specialized units, including SWAT, that deal with these high risks, high threat scenarios where you have someone armed with a deadly weapon potentially that's not wanting to be caught effectively. and they wind up going in and making sure that we are able to serve these warrants. So yet again, all these great units that do great things, but I know a lot of people, they see, oh, what's SWAT doing over there? And a lot of people tend to think like we're just causing unnecessary problems. But the next time you see a SWAT truck out there, this is likely what they're dealing with is someone who was accused of aggravated robbery. They're shooting suspects. They're violent people. They're armed. They're refusing to comply, and they're involved in some pretty heinous crimes. So don't immediately assume the worst, please. When you see these trucks, when you see these units, when you see high levels of activity, police activity in the area, it's usually because these are the type of incidents that we're dealing with. So, and then we have this week's Wanted Wednesday. This is something that's put out by the Capital Area Crime Stoppers. They put it out every Wednesday, and this week is Clifford Rugen, who has an outstanding felony warrant for failure to register as a sex offender. This is from a case that happened back in 2022. He's a 30-year-old white male, 5'10", weighs about 230 pounds, and you'll be able to see his photo. If you have any information about where he might be, please do contact the Capital Area Crime Stoppers. Their information is on there, but do keep in mind that they, as with everything else, we keep hitting on it, but it's up to $1,000 reward for information that leads to his arrest. So if you see him have any information, please let them know, and all their information is up on there for you. We try to highlight officers who have been killed in the line of duty, and this week is one that hits home for a lot of people earlier this week, because actually it was just before I got here, but both of y'all were here with the department at the time. But this was when April 6th of 2012 is when Jaime Padron was killed in the line of duty when he was shot by a suspect at the Walmart up in North Austin. So it's still something that is very fresh still, even though, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think it's been 13 years since it happened, but it was a significant incident here for APD as a whole, but also for the city. And the last time we had that, I mean, since Jaime, it was George. It was the next one where it was someone that was shot and killed in the line of duty. We've had a lot of line of duty deaths related to other things as well, but
it doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it's a very sad moment for the police department, and it's something that we reflect on for the rest of our careers here. A lot of us knew Jaime Padron. A lot of us very sad still to this day with his death, and so it's always worth remembering him every year when it comes up. So
him, as well as the civilians that were involved in the incident too, because there were also, even though he had been shot and he was, mortally wounded, two other people jumped in that I believe they were Walmart employees. They were employees that jumped in and wound up detaining the suspect. And so it's always impressive to me to see how other people are willing to jump into action as well. So,
and these moments are always big for our community too, because he was a public servant that served the community. People knew him. The Walmart, I give a big shout out to them. They did a fantastic job. Their employees, and for years, and I think they still do. It's the North Walmart on Palmer Lane. Every year, they would pull out a big memorial that they had made and would put it in their store. And up until even just a couple of years ago, there were still employees that were there that night that were still working there, and they were always trying to remember and share their memories and honor his life and his sacrifice as he was trying to, apprehend a shoplifter inside the store, and they get into a fight, and the guy pulls a gun out and shoots Officer Padron.
Yeah, and they're still supportive to this day, and we appreciate that. Many years later, they're still involved with the police department, and they show their support. And we need the community to rally against the police department, especially with all of our staffing crisis and morale issues to date. And so with that, we have started to kick off a new campaign with the Austin Police Benevolent Foundation. And so there's different ways that you can give back to the department. A lot of officers, when they're on lunch, are told by community members that they support them. How can they help? This is a good way to do it. So if you visit apbfoundation.org, You can go on there. You can donate money. You can help give gifts that might be used in a silent auction at one of our events, or in that packet that I just held up, you can actually sponsor one of our events. So that way we can have fun events for officers while still raising money. And what the foundation does is it helps provide support for officers that are going through some tough times. You know, a lot of officers' families come down with cancer, illnesses, you know, deaths in the family that they definitely need to have some kind of financial assistance. So that's what the Benevolent Foundation is mostly set up for.
Yeah, they're big. I mean, the foundation exists as a primary promoter of morale issues right now. Like the foundation is here to make sure that we deal with a lot of the morale crisis that we're dealing with right now with the department, because the foundation is trying to care for officers who are ultimately caring for our city, caring for the community. So if you are one of those people that are wondering, like, hey, how do I show my support? How do we help? How do we do this? Know that you can visit the foundation website. You can donate to them, because they are not only trying to impact morale, but they are also here in times of need. They are here, like you said, when we are dealing with medical crisis, with line of duty deaths, with all these catastrophic events that happen for officers. The foundation is their support network. And that is another component that they deal with. And also, there's still gaps that come into play with the department and the city when it comes to training, when it comes to facilities and various other things. And so the foundation is also trying to fill in that training gap where when there's times that officers need to go to training, the department either can't pay for it, it's not in the budget, whatever the case may be, the foundation will step in and take care of that wherever we can. So again, the foundation is there to help make sure officers know that they are supported, to make sure that they know they have this safety net when, you know, catastrophic events come, and then know that there is someone outside of the department as well who will help support you professionally to make sure that you can become the highest quality officer that you possibly can. We want phenomenal officers here, and the foundation is there to support the mission. So please go to the website, donate to them. It's a fantastic organization that does a lot of great things, but at their core, again, they are here to care for the officers that are ultimately caring for our city, and that alone is why it's worthwhile investing in the foundation. So, and
that's the easiest way to give back. Another easy way, if you're watching this video, we ask that you like or subscribe the page.
Yes.
Share it out there with all of your friends and your contacts out in the social media world. You can re-exit. Is that a thing to do? Like when you retweet, it's re-exing now?
Oh, sure. Yeah, whatever you say.
Whatever
I was
platform
like, I don't know
you're
what we're
on.
doing.
Hit that bell so you get the notifications when we post a new video.
Yep. Subscribe to we've got YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, on X. Like, we're across every social media platform, but helping us get the word out, the message out, is also very helpful and a great way to show your support that costs nothing. So please do follow us, share these videos, and help us spread the message about all the good work that is going on at APD and how we can continue to support APD officers. So with that, we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we hope we'll see y'all again on the next one, and hopefully you'll bring another viewer or two along with you. But until then, y'all stay safe, stay alert, and stay tuned for the next one.